As bad as 2024 was for Purdue, perhaps this 2025 schedule is going to be tougher. Let's break it all down. Here is the full schedule if you go week by week, but we're going to look first at the non-conference. They're going to play Ball State, Southern Illinois, and Notre Dame. They'll play Notre Dame on the road. Obviously going to be a tough game. You know, Ball State, Southern Illinois, very winnable game. So I guess the non-conference would actually be a little bit easier from last year. I think they played, I can't remember the other team that they played. They played a decent team, though, last season in the non-conference. But let's look at who they play at home and who they play away. So at home this year, they're going to play USC, Illinois, Rutgers, Ohio State, and Indiana, those teams in the Big Ten. And then on the road in the Big Ten, they'll play Minnesota, Northwestern, Michigan, and Washington. So that's how that looks. And then we look at the changes from last year in the Big Ten. So they lose Michigan State, Nebraska, Oregon, Penn State, and Wisconsin, but they add Michigan, Minnesota, Rutgers, USC, and Washington. And actually, looking at this a second time, it actually might be an easier schedule this year because they did have Oregon and Penn State last year. And then you look at who they added. Michigan's going to be good this year. USC, Minnesota, Rutgers, Washington, solid teams, but not your top tier teams like Oregon and Penn State. So I'm actually going to kind of backtrack from what I said at the beginning. It's actually going to be an easier schedule this year in the Big Ten from what they had last year, but they do have to play Notre Dame in the non-conference. So maybe there's some hope for Purdue. Maybe they can bounce back this year. We'll see. We look at the full schedule. They'll open up with Ball State on August 30th. That's a pretty good way to start the season, but a MAC team. It's not like it's not an FCS team. It is a MAC team, so that's not a guaranteed win. Then you got Southern Illinois, so that's the FCS game that they should be able to win. Shouldn't have too much trouble there. With an FCS team, I think it was Indiana State they played last year. They won that game easily. So as bad as Purdue was, they were still much better than your average FCS team. They play USC on September 13th at home, and then they go on the road to play Notre Dame September 20th before getting their first bye week. And look at this stretch after that bye week. 7 straight games. So a kind of a weird situation with the bye weeks. You play 4 games, you get a bye, then you play 7 straight, then you get another bye, and you play 1 more game. So yeah, kind of a weird schedule there. On October 4th, they'll play Illinois at home, and then they'll go on the road back-to-back games at Minnesota on October 11th and at Northwestern on October 18th. Then they're back home for Rutgers October 25th, and then it's on the road at Michigan on November 1st, Ohio State November 8th. They do have to play them again. Then they have Washington on the road November 15th before that second bye week, and they'll close things out with Indiana on November 29th. So again, schedule, for a team like Purdue, this is obviously going to be tough. You'd love to not have to play Notre Dame in the non-conference. We've seen some other teams in the Big Ten play very weak non-conference schedules. But for Purdue, they do have that tough game there. And again, I just look at that stretch with Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington. Can Purdue find a win or two in there? It's going to be tough. That is a tough stretch. Again, for a team like Purdue. Now, that wouldn't be a tough stretch for Oregon. Again, Michigan, Ohio State back-to-back, that's going to be pretty tough. So I think it really just depends on how much better Purdue is, assuming they are better this year with a new coach. And if they're not, then obviously they're going to be terrible again, and it's going to be tough for them to win a game in the Big Ten. So how does this schedule stack up in the Big Ten? And yeah, it is actually one of the tougher schedules. Their opponent's winning percentage from 2024 in the Big Ten was 45-36. So their opponents this year went 45-36 last year in the Big Ten. That's a 56% win percentage. And I was going by this number when I said that this schedule was potentially going to be tougher, but I would actually say it's not going to be tougher. They had a really tough one last year with Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. So yeah, 56% win percentage. That is one of the tougher schedules in the Big Ten this year, but again, maybe not quite as bad as last year for this Purdue team.